And we're going to take them one at a time. I'm going to sit down there and we'll announce them one at a time when you come up. Enjoy your reading. Linda.
Morning. I didn't bring any of my own. I'll spare you that. The first poem I have is from Corrine Roosevelt Robinson. She was an American poet, writer, lecturer, and public speaker. She was the younger sister of President Theodore Roosevelt. She was an aunt of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and fifth cousin to Franklin. This is the path that leads to nowhere. There's a path that leads to nowhere in a meadow that I know. There an inland river rises, and the stream is still and slow. There it wanders under willow and beneath the silver green of the birches' silent shadows, where the early violets lean. Other pathways lead to somewhere, but the one I love so well had no end and no beginning, just the beauty of the dell. Just the wild windflowers and the lilies, yellow striped as adder's tongue, seem to satisfy my pathway as it winds their sweets among. There I go to meet the springtime when the meadow is aglow, marigolds amid the marshes, and the stream is still and slow. There I find my fair oasis, and with carefree feet I tread, for the path leads to nowhere, and the blue is overhead. All the ways that lead to somewhere echo with the hurrying feet of the struggling and the striving, but the way I find so sweet bids me dream and bids me linger. Joy and beauty are its goal. On the path that leads to nowhere, I have sometimes found my soul. So I have two short ones from Mary Oliver, who I don't think needs any introduction. She's my favorite poet. So one is called Invitation. Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day? For the goldfinches that have gathered in a field of thistles or a musical battle, to see who can sing the highest note or the lowest, or the most expressive of mirth, or the most tender. Their strong, blunt beaks drink the air as they strive melodiously, not for your sake, and not for mine, and not for the sake of winning, but for sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us, they say, it is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in the broken world. I beg of you, do not walk by without pausing to attend to this rather ridiculous performance. It could mean something. It could mean everything. It could mean what Rilke meant when he wrote, "You must change your life." And this one is called From the Book of Time. I rose this morning early as usual and went to my desk, but it's spring and the thrush is in the woods, somewhere in the twirled branches, and he is singing. I'm touching a few leaves. I'm noticing the way the yellow butterflies move together in a twinkling cloud over the field. And I'm thinking, maybe just looking and listening is the real work. Maybe the world without us is the real poem. Thank you.
That second poem really struck me as relating very well to today. I wonder when she wrote it. Do you have any idea? That was pretty special. Thank you. What was the title? Someone asked for the title. The second one.
The second invitation. What was the last one? And the last one was called From the Book of Time.
You know, I was supposed to make copies of all of these poems, and I didn't. We can make copies if you want copies. Michael McGraw, you're up.
Like a lot of us here, we have different sources of inspiration. And this gentleman here, whose name is Wendell Berry, who's now 91 years old, is still active. He spent decades as a person involved with the literary scene in New York City. And he calls himself the Mad Farmer. He grew up and is now back to farming in Kentucky. And he's retired from the city and he spends his time writing, and as he has throughout his whole life. A famous quote is attributed to him, and it goes, "What's good for the world is good for us." And so anyway, poem I have from him is called A Country Funeral. And you may want to think Rebirth. Well, to me, it hits for a lot of different levels, that theme. Excuse me. Now, the old ways that have brought us farther than we remember sink out of sight, as under the treading of many strangers, ignorant of landmarks. Only once in a while they are cast clear again upon the mind, as at a country funeral, where amid the soft lights, the hothouse flowers, the expensive solemnity of experts, notes of a polite musician, persist the usages of old neighborhood. Friends and kinsmen come and stand and speak, knowing the extremity they have come to, one of their own bearing to the earth the last of his light, his darkness, the sun's definitive mark. They stand and think, as they stood and thought when even the gods were different. And the organ music, though decorous, as for somebody else's grief, has its source in the outcry of pain and hope, in log churches on naked hillsides, by an open grave, eastward in mountain passes, in tidelands, and across the seas. How long is this time? Rock of ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. Excuse me. They came once in time in simple loyalty to their dead and returned to the world. The fields and the work remained to be returned to. Now, the entrance of one of the old ones into that rock too often means a life work perished from the land without inheritor, and the field goes wild as the house sits and stares. Or as it passes at cash value to strangers. Now the old dead wait in an open coffin for the blood kin to gather, come home for one last time to hear old men whose tongues bear an essential topography, speaking memories doomed to die. But our memory of ourselves, hard-earned, is one of the land seeds, as a seed is the memory of the life of its kind in its place, to pass on into life with knowledge of what has died. What we owe the future is not a new start, for we can only begin with what has happened. We owe the future the past, the long knowledge that is the potency of time to come. That makes of a man's grave a very rich furrow. The community of knowing in common is the seed of our life in this place. There is not only no better possibility, there is no other, except for chaos and darkness, the terrible ground of the only possible new start. And so, as the old die and the young depart, where shall a man go who keeps the memories of the dead, except home again, as one would go back after a burial, faithful to the fields? Let the dead die a second, lest the dead man die a second and more final death. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That was stirring. Okay, Martha is next. Martha Swanson. When I first started with this church, she was a very, very active member of the church. Many of you don't know her because she doesn't come much anymore for one reason or another. But she is part of our poetry group, and she wrote a couple of poems. So I told her, I think she might be on Zoom. I told her I would read them. The first one is called April Celebration. April in Florida brings a white spring moth in a whisper of white that swells to a froth. Singles drift in flyways along canals, yards, and streets. Pairs swirl up, exulting as the day's breeze heats. Festive clouds of white become a whirlwind grand, a joyous white spring snow globe, rocked with the love in God's own hand. And the second one is called Heart's Spring. Hope dawns bright at break of day, chasing winter woes away. Clouds of darkness drift apart, joyful birdsong fills the heart. Tender blades of courage sprout, crocuses of strength peek out. Longing rides the southern breeze, dancing through the mind's bare trees. Dreams will bud and blossom here, in the spring of each heart's year. Thank you very much, Martha. They're beautiful. Joe Wolfarth, right on time.
I wrote this fresh recently. A true story from the 1950s. Once upon a time, one long ago Easter Sunday morning, long before I was born, a little girl named Bonnie roused her little brother Brian, just a year younger. "Get up, Bryony," she whispered. "We've got to get ready." She had been coaching him. Mama's little helper, people might say. She taught her brother, saying, This is the way. This is the way we wash our face, we brush our teeth, we comb our hair. And now, this is the way we dress up for Easter. We put on our best finery, because today is a holiday, a special day. Bonnie had gotten a pretty new dress, you see, just for the occasion, something extra nice to wear for Easter Sunday. But poor little Brian, her baby brother, he hadn't gotten any new clothes lately. How was she going to help him get dressed up, nice and pretty for this once-a-year special occasion? What could she do? Bonnie had an idea. It was perfect. Her satisfaction grew and grew. She knew just the thing to do. Wouldn't the adults be pleased when Bonnie saved the day? They appeared as if on cue, these two little, Miss Bonnie in her new Easter dress and her little brother Bryony, all so splendidly clad, for Bonnie had found a solution to the question of how to make Brian equally pretty. She had helped him dress as always, but today he wore the lovely Easter dress that had been hers last year. "Mama, doesn't Bryony look pretty?" she asked. The adults laughed. They smiled. Were they sharing in her delight? They took pictures. Bonnie in her pretty blue dress, new this year, and Brian in the pink one that had fit his sister last Easter. Hair combed, faces shining in the sunlight, the two children seated on the grass. Smile for the camera. Precious moments, never forgotten, captured on film, in memories. Family stories. Brian James Fahey, that dark-haired little boy who great-grandma used to call my darling Brian. Seated happily in the grass in a pretty pink dress beside his older sister, naturally blonde, Bonita Louise. We have always called her Bonnie. My mother read Gone with the Wind as a girl, was 13 the Christmas season after the movie premiered. She thought Rhett and Scarlett's little girl, Bonnie Blue they called her, was adorable. Bonnie, what a sweet name for a little girl. I don't think my older brother Brian wore that pretty dress to church, or for much longer after that photograph was taken. He would grow into a muscular little boy. By the time he was a teenager, his friends would be calling him Caveman, because I think he reminded them of Bam Bam Rubble from the Flintstones. He would become a United States Marine. He would father 4 children. That we know of, we used to joke, handing him a beer. He left this family in the first decade of the new millennia. He didn't live to see all of his grandkids born or meet his great-granddaughter, Genesis. Bonnie holds her grandchildren every chance she gets, treasuring each moment. She is a nurse, having followed in our grandma's footsteps, a healer, still caring for others. Still showing the way, still helping. On the other side, does great-grandma still say, "There you are, my darling Brian"? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That was amazing. You see the little saying at the top of the screen there. I'm going to read it. When power leads man toward arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the areas of man's concerns, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of his existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. And that was by John Kennedy. I didn't know that, and I think Joe pointed that out, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And speaking of poetry, in my mind, the lyrics of songs are definitely poetry. So Mark is going to do this part for our poetry thing with a song called Forever Young. Oh, yes.
Can I talk about Dylan a little before we do it? He doesn't really consider himself a poet. In interviews, he's always just calling himself a song and dance man. That's what he wants to be remembered as, but among other things, I'm sure. But this song is still pretty popular, like with young kids today. I used to be a teacher, and they would always want to play it at the talent shows. I can't remember, we might have played it at one graduation. So it's, even though he predates today's kids, some of his songs still relate to them. Or some of the kids kind of relate, even the older kids relate to him still, like us. Anyway, there's several versions of this song, and this is the simplest form of this song that I could find. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars, climb on every rung, and may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth, see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the wings of change shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your songs always be sung. May you stay forever young. Please sing if you want. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. One more time. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. I'll be back. Oh, one other thing too. Dylan turned down the Nobel Prize, I guess you all know. He's not taking the money though. No, it's him.
That was perfect, Mark. That was perfect, Mark. Thank you. When my first son was born, one of my friends got a calligrapher to write that poem out, Forever Young, and with illustrations, and I would read it to him every day. You know, chill. It was perfect. Yes. My son turned down pretty well. Of course, he had a good mom. Judith Miller is part of our poetry group. She's not part of our congregation yet. She actually comes from Minnesota and snowbird still. But one thing I've learned about Judith is she's really steeped in nature, and all of her poetry, she is a published poet, all of her poetry is steeped in nature. So please welcome Judith.
The poem about Mary Oliver and the invitation. You have an invitation to me for you out there. I was sitting in my car before I had the courage to come in, and I heard at least 10 different birds, including the cedar waxwings. So you've got a treasure here. Anyway, I think I can firm that if I say to you, I want to extend my peace to you, I cannot do so unless I have peace. So the question is, where do we find this peace? How do we get it? Where is it? The title of this poem is called The Maple Tree. Now, I'm not referring to the northern maples. If you go down the roadsides here in Florida, you'll see some of the maples bursting in color. So this is called the maple tree. Just before the bud of the blood red maple leaf springs open, the instant before the birthing of a child's first breath, and just before the ocean wave breaks, and just before the hover of the hummingbird halts, I find that place I have, but where I've not been. I reach for it. I try to pull it in. I breathe deeply, pause, and there it is. It is the place, the peace, the stillness where the I am, is. Here's the calm which so often eludes me. Here's the all-knowing without thought. The stillness has no color, no sound. It is where the lost is found. Here the absence of rhythm pulsating through my veins quiets and soothes the beating heart. No comings or goings, no time, no judgment, no future, no past. A place which is just now at last. It is a place I can give to no one, and no one can take from me. Stillness provides its own safety net. The rabbit, the deer, the wind claim it so easily. Yet I journey the world to claim my own safe harbor where no distance governs its boundaries and no map points the way. So I say to me, go to the maple tree, watch, wait silently, and breathe in the birth of the spring bud, and know you will have traveled to a stillness that is you.
I have so much trouble with these things. That was remarkable, Judith. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And now, Joanne. I'm trying to think. Crazy. Okay.
So the poem I'm going to read today is by Rumi, who was a 13th century Sufi mystic, and he was born in Afghanistan. He traveled to Turkey, what is now Turkey, as a young man, and he lived there the rest of his life. Lord, the air smells good today, straight from the mysteries within the inner courts of God. A grace like new clothes thrown across the garden, free medicine for everybody. The trees in their prayer, the birds in praise, the first blue violets kneeling. Whatever came from being is caught up in being, drunkenly forgetting the way back.
Mariana has written a poem. Come on up. Oh boy.
I don't profess to know very much about poetry. I am thrilled to be able to hear some of them. Linda's are my favorites, but I'm learning as I go. But as I was sitting there, and this is kind of where I am right now, I don't know why, I wrote, do we care? No, do we dare? Do we still care? When I look, will you be there? Can we share a laugh, a tear? Maybe, just maybe, you'll be near.
Thanks for do that. Right.
I did not get a chance to write anything, but I found this one that I thought was interesting. The poet is Claude McKay, born Festus Claudius McKay in Sunnyvale, Jamaica in 1889, was a key figure in the Harlem Renaissance, a prominent literary movement in the 1920s, and it's called The Easter Flower. Far from this foreign Easter damp and chilly, my soul steals to a pear-shaped plot of ground where gleamed the lilac-tinted Easter lily, soft-scented in the air for yards around. Alone, without a hint of guardian leaf, just like a fragile bell of silver rhyme, it bursts the tomb for freedom's sweet and brief in the young pregnant year of Easter time. And many thought it was a sacred sign, and some called it the resurrection flower. And I, a pagan, worshipped at its shrine, yielding my heart unto its perfumed flower. I want to thank all of our wonderful poets. You are amazing, totally amazing.
I am so impressed with the talent that's in this church. If it's not artistic talent, it's poetic talent. I'm just honored. That's talent.
Thank you, Anna. Now it's time in our service for our offertory. So please give as you